A cat, a princess, and one bewildered engineer accidentally purr their way into galactic history. He showed the alien princess a cat, and it changed the whole galaxy. Chapter 1: The Cat Problem. No one expects a diplomatic crisis to begin with a purring noise. Lieutenant Alex Renner certainly didn't. He'd survived 3 engine fires, a pirate ambush, and one very awkward peace dinner with carnivorous telepaths. But none of that prepared him for the tiny, fur-covered disaster currently squirming in his hands. The kitten was white as snow and loud as a jet turbine. She'd been found hiding in a crate of smuggled Terran wildlife on Docking Bay 7. When the customs agent asked if he wanted to euthanize or export it, Alex had said, "Neither. She's coming with me." That was 12 hours ago. Now the cat, whom he'd named Trouble, because what else do you call an intergalactic incident with whiskers, was climbing his uniform sleeve like a tree. Unfortunately, they were no longer on a dock. They were standing in the throne room of the Aurelian Empire under chandeliers that floated like captured suns. Every alien noble in attendance stared in horrified fascination. The princess sat on a golden throne that looked more comfortable than every bed Alex had ever owned. Her skin was a deep rose gold, luminous under the light, with hair so black it shimmered violet. A dozen gold bands circled her arms, and her eyes, amber with fractal pupils, narrowed in suspicion. "This," she said slowly, "is the Terran predator?" Alex swallowed. "Predator is a stretch. She's called a cat." The princess tilted her head. "You brought a weapon?" "Only if you count cuteness as one," Alex muttered, immediately regretting speaking out loud. The kitten mewed. It was a small, sweet sound. Pure, perfect, weaponized innocence. The entire court gasped. "She spoke," said one noble, scandalized. Alex held up his free hand. "She meowed. It's normal. She's saying hi." Princess Virlith leaned forward, chin resting on her knuckles. "This is a greeting?" "Technically. Depends on her mood. Could also mean she's bored, or hungry, or plotting to overthrow you." Her eyebrows arched, gold catching the light. "This creature intends sedition?" "Only if you ignore her for too long." The kitten yawned, a tiny, toothy roar, and then, as if to prove a point, wriggled free and leapt straight into the princess's lap. 1,000 guards drew breath. Alex's heart stopped. Virolith froze. It has chosen proximity. "She likes you," Alex said quickly. The princess looked down at the fur ball now curling up against her golden armor. "It vibrates. She's purring. That means she's happy." "She hums like an engine," the princess murmured. "Is she sentient?" "Only when it's inconvenient." The kitten purred louder. Something softened in the princess's face. "She is warm," she said quietly. "And soft. Like silk, alive." "Yeah," Alex said. "That's sort of their whole deal." Virolith stroked the kitten once, hesitantly. The cat closed her eyes, triumphant. "Remarkable," she whispered. Then, looking at Alex, "You will instruct me in this species." "Excuse me?" "You will teach me how to care for this creature." Alex blinked. "Your radiance. I'm not effective immediately," she continued, voice sharp as ceremony. "You are assigned as royal animal handler. You and the cat will remain in my chambers until I comprehend this purring technology." The kitten purred louder. Alex groaned. "Trouble, what have you done?" The princess smiled faintly. "I believe she has promoted you." Chapter 2: The Royal Cat Keeper. Alex discovered 2 facts within the first hour of his promotion. First, the royal study had more pillows than a luxury cloud. Second, Trouble believed all of them were her throne. Servants scanned him as if he might be contagious with earth. A steward in a cape the size of a parachute presented a slate for his signature. Royal Animal Handler, temporary, and then fled when Trouble hissed at the pen. Princess Virolith dismissed the crowd with a flick of her fingers. Alone, she did not look like a statue. She looked curious and very slightly terrified. The cat purred in her lap as if coaching bravery. "Begin the instruction," she said. Okay, Alex said, kneeling by a low table. Baseline physiology. Cats are obligate carnivores, nap-powered, and prone to acts of affection that resemble sabotage. They require food, water, a litter tray, toys, and boundaries they will ignore. Carnivore, Virolith repeated, stroking the soft skull with two regal fingers. She hunts. Bugs and ankles, mostly. And litter tray? An indoor sand field for royal deposits. Her eyes widened. We will not discuss imperial waste with so casual a tone. Great, because I was going to suggest scented crystals. She cleared her throat. Proceed. They experimented. Trouble inspected a silver dish, rejected it, and drank from Virolith's water glass like a conquering general. She attacked a silk tassel with the ferocity of a small god. She discovered the echo under the throne and decided it was haunted, then braved it and returned with dust on her nose, proud as a comet. Virolith kept notes. Purring indicates contentment. Tail upright, confidence. Tail flicking, irritation. Needing behavior suggests bread making? Ancestral nest building, Alex said. Or she's tenderizing your lap. Monstrous, Virolith said fondly. A soft chime sounded at the door. The steward returned with a lacquered case. Inside lay a necklace of articulated gold scales and 3 dangling charms shaped like moons. The kitten collar, he proclaimed, forged by the master jeweler for her radiance's newest treasure. Alex stared. That's worth more than my ship. Trouble batted it off the cushion and sat on it. Virolith's mouth twitched. She has spoken. Translation. Wrong vibe, Alex said. He dug in his pack, produced a frayed blue ribbon. Try this. The princess examined the humble strip like it might explode, then tied it gently around Trouble's neck. The cat pranced in a small circle, pleased, and flopped sideways with a sigh so satisfied even the paintings seemed to relax. The ribbon is acceptable, Virolith decreed. We will cancel the jeweled moons. Your treasury thanks you. A pause. The princess angled her head. Do you always speak with irreverence? Only when I'm nervous. And you are nervous now? Terrified, your radiance, of the cat, and of you. Her laugh was quick and bright. You should be. I am more capricious. They practiced pickup technique. Support forelegs, she is not a jug, and petting pressure. Too soft is insult, too firm is outrage. Trouble endured the lessons with benevolent tyranny, then climbed the back of the couch and draped herself across Virolith's shoulders like a warm shawl. Explain the sound she makes when I stop petting, the princess said, freezing as a plaintive chirrup emerged. Manipulation, advanced level. I respect it, Virolith murmured, resuming strokes. Night cycle bled through the star glass. Alex gathered empty dishes and a toppled cushion invasion. He should have left hours ago. Protocol manuals were probably vibrating somewhere in fury. But Virolith watched the moons rise with a kitten on her shoulder, and the whole empire looked softer. She glanced over. Liaison Renner. Alex is fine. Alex. She tasted it like a new spice. You will return at dawn. There is much to learn. Also, the cat has indicated preference for you when she desires chaos. High praise, he said, grinning despite exhaustion. I'll bring toys. Bring yourself, she said, eyes warm as late sunlight. The toys appear self-sufficient. Trouble chose that moment to butt her small head against Virolith's jaw. The princess went very still, as if a crown had just bowed to her instead of the other way around. I am chosen, she whispered. Yeah, Alex said softly. That's the whole magic trick. Virolith looked up, some decision settling in her bones. Very well, Alex of Terra. Teach me everything about cats, about your people, about affectionate madness. He saluted with a half smile. Lesson 1. Get used to fur on everything. Even on emperors? Especially on emperors. The princess laughed again, real and unguarded, and the palace's lights seemed to brighten in response. Somewhere deep in the ship city, fans hummed, matching a small purr that had already begun to change an empire. Chapter 3. The Palace Learns to Purr. By the third sunrise, the Empire's most heavily guarded palace smelled faintly of fish and sounded like happiness. Servants now walked softer through the halls, because if Trouble was sleeping, no one dared make noise. Somewhere between the second and third lesson, Princess Virolith had decided naps were sacred. If the creature can demand rest, she told her staff, so may I. Her attendants didn't know whether to applaud or panic. Alex spent his mornings teaching the princess to play. The word had no translation in High Aurelian. Their nearest equivalent meant rehearsed combat. He produced a laser pointer. The red dot zipped across the carpet. Trouble exploded after it, claws out, tail stiff with delight. Virolith gasped as if witnessing witchcraft. "It hunts light!" "Pretty much," Alex said, "and somehow that's enough." She crouched beside him, regal dignity forgotten, and tried it herself. The cat pounced. Virolith laughed, a quick, bright sound that seemed to make the palace's golden walls shimmer. Guards peeked through the door, mouths open. No one had ever heard their princess laugh that way. Afternoons were for philosophy. Your species tames monsters to live beside them, Virolith mused one day, watching Trouble groom herself. Is that not arrogance? Maybe, Alex said. Or maybe it's hope. We want proof that fear can turn into friendship. She tapped her chin thoughtfully. On my world, when a creature shows its teeth, we bear ours in return. You respond with milk. Yeah, he said. We're weird like that. The princess smiled. I find it preferable. Evening brought the first accident. Trouble decided the royal gown's embroidered train was the perfect climbing surface. The sound of tearing silk cut through the throne hall like a crime. Alex froze. Virolith looked down. Her staff collectively prepared their resignations. Then she said, perfectly calm, tailors can mend fabric. I will not unteach curiosity. The servants blinked. Alex exhaled a laugh he hadn't realized he'd been holding. That's a good line. I am practicing Terran forgiveness, she said. How did I do? Better than most Terrans. That night, he found her in the observatory. Trouble lay curled in her lap, tiny engine rumbling. Outside the glass dome, the galaxy turned like a wheel of fire and frost. She watches the stars as if they belong to her, Virolith said softly. Perhaps she believes they are prey. Cats are like that, Alex said. Everything they see, they think they own. Then she is perfectly suited to rule, the princess murmured, eyes glinting. Alex grinned. Maybe she already does. Virolith looked up at him. For a heartbeat, humor faded, replaced by something gentler. Do all humans speak with such warmth? Only around cats, he said. Then I envy your planet. The kitten purred louder, sealing the moment with sound. Chapter 4. Cultural Exchange. Next week, the Aurelian Empire held its annual Festival of Conquest, which sounded terrifying but mostly involved fireworks and bureaucracy. Virolith insisted Alex and Trouble attend. He stood beside her on a balcony overlooking 10,000 citizens. The cat perched on the rail like a living mascot, tail flicking in time with the music below. My people expect victory speeches, the princess whispered. Instead, I will give them something better. She lifted Trouble high. The crowd gasped. Behold, Virolith declared, voice echoing across the plaza. The Terran beast of peace. Trouble meowed, unimpressed. She teaches us gentleness, Virolith continued, and humility, for even a creature small enough to fit in my hand can tame the noise of 1,000 hearts. Alex blinked. That's actually beautiful. It's politics, she said under her breath. But if it moves them, it will do. The roar of applause that followed nearly startled Trouble off the rail. Virolith caught her smoothly, earning another wave of cheers. Later, when the fireworks painted the sky, Alex leaned on the balcony beside her. You just made a cat the symbol of galactic unity. Yes, she said, and tomorrow the treasury will be flooded with requests for adoption permits. You planned that? Of course. Empires move slower than affection, so we will make affection fashionable. He laughed. You're dangerous. Only to cynics, she said, smiling up at the stars. Now tell me, how do I convince the cat to share her blanket? You don't, Alex said. She'll decide when you've earned it. And have I? He looked at her. This alien ruler wrapped in gold and starlight, holding a sleepy earth kitten to her heart, and said quietly, You're getting there. The kitten purred. The galaxy kept turning. Chapter 5. The Cat Revolution. It started, as all revolutions do, with imitation and poor planning. By the next rotation, nobles across the capital had begun acquiring Terran felines. The word cat spread like gossip, pronounced wrong in 50 languages. The trend became irresistible. Every aristocrat wanted a tiny alien predator to display their newfound empathy. The problem was, none of them knew what they were doing. Within 3 days, the Imperial Veterinary Corps reported 37 allergic rashes, 5 shredded ceremonial robes, and 1 governor hospitalized for minor puncture wounds sustained while attempting affection. Virolith read the reports over breakfast with visible pride. They are learning consequences, she said, sipping luminescent tea while Trouble dozed across her arm. Alex groaned. They're learning how to bleed. Pain refines sincerity, she countered. You said so yourself. Love has teeth. That was a metaphor, Your Radiance. Metaphors are merely truths wearing costumes. She looked too pleased with herself to argue. By noon, the palace was hosting emergency feline orientation sessions. Alex found himself surrounded by nobles in embroidered armor, each cradling a terrified kitten like a bomb. One count asked, How does one command it to sit? You don't, Alex said. Then what is its purpose? To sit wherever it wants. This is chaos. Welcome to humanity. Virolith appeared halfway through the lesson, resplendent in gold and confidence. Trouble sat perched on her shoulder like a smug god. The princess observed the room and said, Lesson 1, you do not own the cat. The cat allows your existence. The nobles stared at her, confused. Lesson 2, she continued. When she bites, it means you have been noticed. Rejoice, Alex muttered. This is how cults start. Empires, Virolith corrected smoothly, are simply organized cults with better fonts. He snorted, earning a scandalized glance from a duke. Trouble yawned, and somehow that was the end of the debate. Weeks passed. Cat culture overtook the empire. Markets sold imported scratching posts as luxury items. Holographic purr chambers promised serenity to stressed bureaucrats. Some planetary governors even declared nap hours in honor of feline philosophy. And quietly, something in the empire changed. Fewer duels were fought. Fewer decrees ended in executions. Arguments softened into pauses. The sound of purring had seeped into the walls. You've domesticated an empire, Alex said one evening as they walked through the throne garden, Trouble padding between them. Virolith tilted her head, pretending offense. Incorrect. I merely reintroduced softness as a survival trait. You realize historians are going to call this the cat revolution, right? They will call it what they please. I will call it success. She paused at the edge of the fountain, moonlight glinting off her skin. Do you ever tire of teaching, Alex of Terra? Never when the student listens. I listen to you, she said, turning to him. Even when I pretend not to. He swallowed. Dangerous confession, Your Radiance. True things often are. Trouble meowed, interrupting the moment like a furry chaperone. Virolith laughed softly. She dislikes tension. So inconvenient. Smart cat, Alex said. She's saving us from gossip. From ourselves, Virolith murmured. Chapter 6. The Purring Council. The next crisis came disguised as diplomacy. A delegation from the neighboring Vorn Dominion arrived to negotiate trade rights. The Vorn were a reptilian species, sharp teeth, colder blood, very little patience for anything mammalian. Their ambassador bowed stiffly before the throne, scales gleaming under the light. "We come to speak of mutual profit," he hissed. Virolith smiled like someone who'd already won. "Then let us profit in peace." Trouble, of course, chose that moment to leap into the ambassador's lap. The hiss that followed could have melted steel. Every guard drew weapons. The cat yawned. Alex froze halfway through a bow. "Don't move," he whispered. "If you startle her, she'll think it's a game." The ambassador trembled. "It is touching me." "She's being friendly," Alex said quickly. "It's a sign of, blessing." Virolith's eyes gleamed. "Indeed, our divine creature approves your presence." The ambassador blinked. "Divine?" "She is called Trouble," the princess said solemnly. "She senses truth." The reptilian delegate slowly extended a claw and scratched behind Trouble's ears. The cat purred like a holy engine. The ambassador exhaled in visible relief. "She vibrates," he said in wonder. "Is this technology?" "Emotion," Virolith said. "You may import it for free." The trade deal that followed was the fastest in recorded history. Afterward, Alex muttered, "You just turned a cat into a deity." Virolith smiled. "Deities are only ideas that demand worship. This one merely purrs. She's going to have a cult before the week's over. Then the Empire will finally have a religion that doesn't require blood." Alex couldn't argue with that. Chapter 7. Her first scratch. 2 months later, the inevitable happened. Trouble scratched the princess. It was a tiny mark, barely visible, but the entire palace reacted like someone had attempted assassination. The medic drones swarmed. Guards sealed the chamber. Alex ran in to find Virolith standing on her balcony, finger bleeding and expression unreadable. Trouble sat at her feet, licking her paw, utterly unbothered. "Your radiance," Alex gasped. "What?" "She bit the hand that feeds her," Virolith said quietly. "Does she no longer trust me?" He stepped closer. "No, she trusts you too much. That's why she forgot to fear you." Virolith frowned, considering. "So affection invites pain?" "Sometimes," he said. "It's how you know it's real." The princess looked down at the red line on her skin, then smiled faintly. "Then I accept the lesson." She crouched, meeting the cat's eyes. "You have my forgiveness, small teacher." Trouble meowed once, softly, almost contrite, and leaned into her hand again. When the princess straightened, Alex saw something new in her face. Not pain, not anger, something like recognition. "Human," she said. "Your creature understands love better than our poets." "Yeah," Alex said softly. "Cats usually do." Chapter 8. Whiskers of State. By the time Trouble turned 6 months old, she was the most powerful, unelected figure in the Aurelian Empire. The kitten attended every high council meeting, draped over the armrest of the throne like an ornament that breathed. Nobles learned to pause whenever she stirred. No one wanted to risk offending the Empire's divine mascot. Alex sat 2 steps below the dais, surrounded by floating data pads. His job had unofficially expanded from royal animal handler to translator of cat-related miracles. When Trouble sneezed during a budget proposal, Virolith declared it a sign to redistribute funds to planetary aid. The nobles applauded. When she yawned during a military speech, the generals revised their tone to sound less aggressive. When she fell asleep mid-council, no one dared speak louder than a whisper. Virolith called it adaptive governance. Alex called it lunacy with excellent PR. Between sessions, the princess summoned him to the royal study under the pretext of behavioral consultation. Trouble usually napped through these, which left the 2 of them alone amid soft lamps and too much quiet. "Your people's creatures alter moods," Virolith said one afternoon, watching the cat dream beside her. "They bring calm. I have seen generals stutter and priests weep. It is as if the galaxy itself lowers its voice around them." "That's the trick," Alex said. "They don't try to change you. You just start changing around them." "Humans excel at paradox," she said. Your species builds machines that rage through space, yet kneel before a purring animal. Balance, he said with a shrug. We build loud things so we can earn the quiet. Her gaze lingered on him. And which are you, Alex? The loud thing or the quiet one? He laughed softly. I guess that depends who I'm standing next to. For once she didn't have a retort ready. Rumors began. The palace staff whispered that the human had the princess's ear, and perhaps her heart. Nobles speculated that Earth's diplomatic mission was a seduction campaign. Conspiracy networks on 6 planets accused the cat of being an AI spy. Virolith ignored them all. She invited Alex into strategy councils, asked him questions that shocked her advisors, and listened when he spoke. The first time she asked his opinion in public, the hall fell silent. Engineer Renner, she said, as if the question were casual. If one wishes to stabilize an empire without force, what does your species advise? Alex, halfway through hiding a yawn, froze. Honestly? Feed people. Give them things to love that aren't wars. The nobles murmured in confusion. Virolith nodded. Noted. The next morning, the Empire announced a new domestic welfare initiative called Project Hearth. It promised every citizen shelter, heat, and education. Its emblem was a golden cat's paw print. Alex nearly choked on his breakfast when he saw the news feed. You weaponized kindness, he told her later. I weaponized sanity, she said simply. You merely reminded me it existed. Trouble sneezed in approval. Chapter 9. The Midnight Argument. They were bound to clash eventually. It began over maintenance schedules, of all things. The power grid on Deck 9 needs replacement, Alex said, tapping a schematic. The infrastructure's 2 centuries old. You're sitting on a spark waiting to happen. Virolith crossed her arms. Deck 9 houses the cathedral of the First Empress. I cannot simply dismantle a national monument. I'm not saying tear it down. I'm saying reinforce it before it collapses on its own. You presume to know my world better than I do? I presume to know gravity. Her eyes narrowed. You are insolent. And you're stubborn, he shot back. Trouble, sensing doom, retreated under the couch. For a long moment, the only sound was the low hum of the palace. Then Virolith spoke, voice quiet but sharp. Do you speak to your rulers this way on Terra? Only the ones I like enough to be honest with. Her lips parted, surprised, not offended. You, like me? I wouldn't risk a diplomatic incident for someone I didn't. That earned a small, reluctant smile. You infuriate me. Mutual, he said. Trouble poked her head out, meowed once, and jumped into Virolith's lap. The princess sighed, petting the cat automatically. I suppose even gods require maintenance, she murmured. Especially gods, Alex said. The fight dissolved into laughter, exhaustion, and silence that didn't feel empty. Chapter 10. The catnapping. The first real threat came quietly. It happened the night before the Festival of Harmony, a new celebration Virolith had invented to commemorate interstellar companionship, which meant speeches, galas, and far too many nobles with fragile egos. Sometime between midnight and dawn, the palace alarms blared. Alex bolted upright in his quarters. Trouble was gone. He sprinted through marble corridors, ignoring shouted orders until he reached the princess's chambers. Guards stood scattered and useless. The window shutters were open to the cold void. Virolith stood barefoot in her nightgown, hair unbound, eyes blazing. They took her. Who? The Purity Council. Old nobles. They believe I have polluted our heritage with your creature. Where would they take her? To the docks. They intend to return her to your world, or kill her trying. Alex's stomach turned to iron. Then we're getting her back. Virolith's jaw tightened. My guards are too visible. You'll start a civil war. Then what do you suggest? He met her eyes. You and me, quietly. She blinked. You propose infiltration? Call it night maintenance. Her expression softened, just slightly. Very well, Alex of Terra. Let us retrieve our goddess. The two of them vanished into the palace shadows, side by side. Chapter 11. Operation. Retrieve Trouble. Stealth, it turned out, was not a skill included in the princess's royal training. Virolith moved through the maintenance tunnels like an avenging comet, silent for 3 steps, then managing to trip every light sensor on the 4th. Her gown, hastily, modified into something resembling a cloak, shimmered faintly in the dark. Alex hissed, "You're glowing." "It's ceremonial dye," she whispered back. "It is infused with the blood of the first." "Yeah, cool. Next time, wear black." She shot him a glare but kept moving, bare feet whispering against the metal grates. The tunnels smelled of oil and ozone. Above them, the hum of the palace's reactors throbbed like a heartbeat. They reached a junction where the air grew colder, open space nearby. Alex peered through a vent grate. Below, the royal hangar glowed with harsh white light. 6 nobles stood by a small shuttle, flanked by guards in gold armor. At their feet, a sleek black cage hummed softly. Inside, a white shape paced restlessly. "Trouble," he whispered. Virolith's jaw tightened. "They mean to eject her into orbit. They call it purification." "Not happening," Alex said. "You see that control console?" He pointed to a nearby terminal. "If I can reach it, I can trip the hangar's gravity buffers. Their boots will stick. Ours won't." "You intend to disable gravity?" "Only for a minute. Humans are deranged. Mostly just me." She looked down at the cage, then back at him. "Fine. We do it your way." He glanced at her gown again. "Lose the shimmer." Her eyes narrowed. "You presume—" He tore a strip of dark tarp from a nearby crate and threw it over her shoulders. "Temporary camouflage, Your Radiance." "Presumptuous," she said, "but effective." They dropped from the vent like shadows, landing behind a stack of cargo modules. Voices carried through the echoing hangar. "A symbol of contamination," one noble hissed. "Once she is gone, the princess will remember her duty." "She will remember nothing," another replied. "We will say the animal perished naturally." Alex's fists clenched. He started forward, but Virolith's hand shot out, catching his sleeve. Her touch was cool and steady. "Patience," she whispered. He forced himself to nod. She leaned close, her lips brushing his ear. "Now." He sprinted. 2 strides, a leap, and he slid into the console pit. Fingers flew across the panel. The gravity matrix whined, flickered, then shut off. For one surreal second, the world went weightless. The nobles screamed as they floated upward in a tangle of robes and dignity. Guards flailed. The cage drifted free. Virolith moved like lightning. She kicked off a pillar, sailing across the room in a graceful arc. Her hand closed on the cage's handle. With a twist, she released the lock. Trouble exploded out in a flurry of fur and righteous fury, her claws meeting the face of the nearest would-be priest. Alex reactivated gravity. The nobles dropped like poorly folded paper cranes. Virolith landed perfectly, cat in her arms. "You see?" she called to him over the alarms. "Affectionate madness works." He grinned. "You're starting to sound human." "I will take that as an insult and a compliment." They ran. Sirens howled behind them, echoing through the docking bays. Virolith led the way this time, darting through narrow corridors with the cat clutched to her chest. Trouble hissed at every corner, her tiny tail a battle flag. They burst into a side elevator, slammed the door, and collapsed against the wall, breathless. Virolith looked at him, laughing wildly. "You have terrible ideas." "And you keep saying yes to them," he said. Trouble meowed loudly, pressing her face into Virolith's chin. The princess smiled, eyes bright with adrenaline. "She says she approves." "Tell her she's grounded." "She says she is divine." Alex chuckled, leaning his head back. "Fair point." When they reached her quarters again, dawn was smearing pink light across the palace skylights. Virolith set Trouble down on her bed and turned to him. "You risked your life for her. For both of you," he said. Her gaze softened. "You are reckless, infuriating, and loyal beyond reason." "Occupational hazard," he said, trying to sound casual. She stepped closer. "My empire owes you a debt. I'll take payment in sleep." Her lips curved. Denied. And then, before he could form another quip, she rose on her toes and kissed him, softly, brief as breath, but enough to knock the universe sideways. When she pulled back, she whispered, "For courage." He blinked. That's one word for it. Trouble yawned between them, utterly unimpressed. Chapter 12. The Consequences of Heroism. The next morning, the palace was chaos. The nobles who'd staged the purification were arrested before breakfast. The Purity Council was dissolved by noon. And by sunset, the galaxy had a new headline: Princess rescues human pet in daring night operation. Pet? Alex grumbled, reading the news feed. They think I was the one in the cage. Let them, Virolith said serenely, sipping her tea. Mystery enhances legend. I don't want to be a legend. Then you should stop performing miracles. Trouble batted at the holoscreen, turning the headline into floating letters. Virolith laughed, a real unguarded sound that made his irritation evaporate. Let them talk, she said. History needs stories. We simply gave them a better one. He studied her face, her confidence, her composure, the way her eyes softened whenever she looked at the cat. You really think this changes things? She met his gaze. It already has. And in that quiet space, surrounded by light and laughter and one very smug feline, Alex began to believe her. Chapter 13. The Human Who Taught an Empire to Pet. By the next cycle, Alex Renner had become the most accidentally famous man in the galaxy. No one quite knew how to categorize him. To the working class, he was the human who taught the princess to smile. To the nobles, he was a contagion, an imported barbarian who'd infected their ruler with softness. To the palace kitchen staff, he was the one who brings treats for the small goddess. He couldn't walk through the market levels without someone asking for cat wisdom. Children waved hand-drawn sketches of trouble, and vendors sold plush toys that meowed when squeezed. He once saw a priest blessing a litter of kittens. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Virolith found it all delightful. You've united my empire, she told him, watching a broadcast of school children reciting Terran cat facts in Aurelian verse. I just introduced them to the internet's oldest addiction, he said. Your modesty is excessive, she said, pouring him tea. But charming. I'm serious. I didn't mean for this to... Neither did I, she interrupted gently. And yet here we are, living inside a miracle that purrs. Trouble yawned from her perch on the windowsill, confirming the sentiment. Virolith began bringing Alex to official functions, not as a servant, but as cultural liaison. During the dedication of the Empire's new Sanctuary for Small Lives, she gave him the microphone unexpectedly. Speak, Terran, she said, voice echoing through the hall. He blinked at the 1,000 expectant faces. Me? I'm just the guy who feeds the cat. They will listen, she said, and took a step back. Alex cleared his throat. Humans used to think strength meant domination. We built things bigger and louder until we realized they broke faster. Turns out strength's just the ability to care without being afraid you'll look weak. Silence. Then applause. Virolith's eyes gleamed. Well said, Alex of Terra. You are beginning to sound imperial. He grinned. You're beginning to sound human. Blasphemy, she said softly, and yet not unpleasant. After the ceremony, they walked the long garden path behind the palace. The air smelled of rain and alien lilacs. Trouble padded ahead of them, tail flicking like a metronome. Virolith said, You know, my ancestors conquered worlds with fleets. You conquered one with a stray. I'm not the one they adore, he said. She is. She is our heart, Virolith agreed. But you are the hand that placed her there. He stopped walking. The sincerity in her voice stole his balance. Vera! She faced him, the faint glow of bioluminescent plants painting her skin in gold and pink. Say my name again. Vera. She took a step closer. You pronounce it as if it were fragile. I'm still not sure it isn't. A beat. The night hummed. Then she said quietly, "When I first met you, I thought you were an annoyance. A noisy human with strange habits and no sense of decorum. Now I realize you are a mirror. You show me what we could be if we stopped pretending perfection is wisdom." He swallowed. "That's dangerously close to a compliment. It is also dangerously close to confession." He didn't move. Neither did she. Trouble meowed, unimpressed by all this emotional tension, and leapt into his arms. The moment cracked, but neither of them could stop smiling. Chapter 14. The Whisper. War. Not everyone celebrated the cat era. In the outer colonies, old guard generals whispered that the Empire had gone soft. Some planetary councils refused to join Project Hearth, calling it Terran contamination. A few military officers began holding secret meetings, too small to call rebellion, too bitter to be harmless. When Virolith's intelligence chief brought her the reports, Alex was in the room. He watched her expression shift from amusement to steel. "They mock you," the chief said. "They call you the pet queen." "Better than the butcher queen," she replied coolly. "But I'll address it." "How?" Alex asked. "By showing them what gentleness looks like when it stops asking permission." That night, she summoned every planetary governor to a holo conference. Alex stood beside her, not hidden, not subservient. The galaxy saw them together. "My empire," she began, her voice carrying the calm of a storm about to form, "has learned a new discipline, empathy. Those who mistake it for weakness will discover it has claws." Alex winced slightly. That line was a little ominous. She didn't blink. Good. Let them feel it. The feed erupted with chatter. Fear and respect mixed into a single note that spread through the network like static. After the call ended, she leaned against the console and exhaled. "How did I do?" "You terrified them and inspired them at the same time," he said. "That's impressive." "It is what you do to me daily," she said, turning toward him. "Perhaps I am learning." Chapter 15. Lessons in Humility. A week later, the palace hosted the annual Assembly of Nobles. Attendance was mandatory. Alex dreaded it. As he took his seat near the dais, he felt 100 eyes on him, most disapproving, some curious, one or two genuinely kind. Trouble sat beside him, licking her paw as if she were chairing the meeting. Virolith began her address. It was long, poetic, and predictably brilliant. But halfway through, a duke rose and interrupted. "Your Highness," the man said, voice dripping scorn, "are we to be ruled by emotion now? By pets and peasants?" The hall fell silent. Virolith didn't look at him. Instead, she turned to Alex. "What say you, Terran?" Every head swiveled toward him. He stood, pulse hammering. "I think emotion's a better ruler than fear. You can't build loyalty out of terror, only obedience, and obedience doesn't survive hunger or hope." The Duke sneered. "Spoken like a man who's never commanded an army. Spoken like a man who's fed one," Alex shot back. Gasps rippled through the room. Trouble meowed as if punctuating the insult. Virolith rose slowly. "You asked for a ruler, Duke. I offer you a partner. Learn the difference." The Duke sat down. So did everyone else. Afterward, in the private lounge, Virolith chuckled. "You may have just ended 3 family lines of arrogance. I'll send flowers." "Send cats," she said. "They'll never recover." Chapter 16. Small Gods and Soft Hands. The Empire settled into its new rhythm, an uneasy peace held together by the sound of purring and the occasional scandal. Alex and Virolith spent more time together, under the pretense of cross-cultural advisement. They shared tea, laughter, silence. Sometimes she'd fall asleep during briefings, head tilted against his shoulder, trouble sprawled across both their laps. He never quite got used to that. The weight of trust, heavier than any crown. One evening, he caught her staring at him across the map table. "What?" he asked. "You are not what I expected from a human," she said. "Most people say that when I break something." You break stillness, she said, and somehow everything moves better afterward. He smiled. You mean I annoy you into progress. I mean you remind me I am alive. Her voice was quiet, and that frightened him more than any battle could. He opened his mouth, but she lifted a finger to her lips. Not yet. Let the galaxy sleep a little longer before we wake it again. Trouble purred between them, the sound a bridge no one could destroy. Chapter 17. The Day the Cat Spoke. The event that historians later called the second first contact began, appropriately, with a hairball. The grand diplomatic summit was supposed to be flawless. Representatives from 40 systems had gathered under the spire's domed hall to ratify the new Charter of Empathic Accord. The galaxy was watching. Alex sat in the front row, trying not to fidget. Trouble sat on the dais beside Virolith, wearing a tiny ceremonial collar studded with blue crystals. Cameras adored her. The cat's face had become the unofficial symbol of peace. She was on posters, currency, even holographic emojis. Halfway through the Chancellor of Yule's tedious speech about mutual understanding, Trouble coughed. Loudly, every translator drone in the hall, programmed to interpret all recognized sounds, froze, processed, and emitted a single, harmonized phrase across 40 languages. Feed me. The room erupted. Delegates shouted. Reporters screamed. One bishop fainted. The universal translator had just proclaimed that the Empire's divine ambassador could speak. Virolith blinked once, then twice. Alex buried his face in his hands. Wonderful, he muttered. First we made her a god. Now she's a prophet. An emergency press conference followed. Virolith stood before the cameras, Trouble in her arms, Alex beside her looking like a man preparing for execution. Let it be known, she said smoothly, that her serenity, Trouble the Benevolent, has indeed spoken. Her first decree is nourishment. Laughter rippled through the audience. The tension broke like a snapped wire. She reminds us, Virolith continued, that peace, like hunger, must be fed daily, or it starves. The crowd applauded. Alex exhaled slowly. Later, when the hall had emptied, he turned to her. You just turned a malfunction into philosophy. She smiled faintly. Ruling is mostly creative translation. Trouble meowed, entirely satisfied with herself. That night, in the quiet of the royal study, Virolith poured 2 glasses of amber wine. The cat slept across the desk, tail twitching. To the feline who accidentally saved diplomacy, she said, raising her glass. Alex clinked his against hers. To the princess who made it sound intentional. They drank. For a long time, neither spoke. Outside, the stars drifted past the viewport like slow embers. Finally, Virolith said softly, Alex, does it ever frighten you? How fragile all this is. All the time, he admitted. But then I remember, fragile things aren't weak. They're proof something survived long enough to matter. She turned the glass in her hands. You speak in small truths that move mountains. And you move mountains like they're furniture. Together, she said, we may yet rearrange the stars. He looked at her, at the quiet strength in her posture, at the warmth hidden behind her composure, and realized that somewhere between teaching her to pet a cat and saving the Empire, he'd fallen completely in love. Chapter 18. Gravity Lessons. Virolith requested a day without protocol, which, in her vocabulary, meant climbing into a maintenance shuttle with Alex and vanishing into orbit without telling anyone. They spent the morning weightless, floating in the ship's transparent dome, watching the planet turn below. Trouble chased a toy suspended in zero gravity, spinning lazily like a tiny comet. This, Virolith said, her hair drifting around her face, is freedom. Technically it's trespassing, Alex said, but yeah, close enough. She drifted closer, catching his sleeve to steady herself. Do you miss your world? Sometimes, he said. But then I look out there and think, maybe home isn't a planet. Maybe it's wherever someone listens. She studied him, eyes luminous in the reflected starlight. Humans speak as if emotion were gravity. It kind of is, he said. You can't escape it, but you can learn to orbit. Her hand brushed his cheek, slow, tentative, deliberate. Then stay in mine. His throat went dry. Careful. That sounds like a royal command. It was a request. And in that silence, in the middle of the infinite, he closed the distance. The kiss was slow, weightless, inevitable. Somewhere nearby, Trouble meowed indignantly and batted at their drifting glasses. When they broke apart, Virolith laughed, quiet, breathless, alive. Our goddess disapproves. She'll forgive us, Alex said. Eventually. Chapter 19. The human factor. When they returned, the Empire was buzzing with rumors. The broadcast drones had caught their shuttle departure, and the tabloids were certain they'd eloped into hyperspace. Virolith waved off the scandal with a grin. Let them write their myths. We have better stories. But behind closed doors, the council pressed her hard. You jeopardize stability, one minister warned. The people whisper of union with a human. She met his gaze. Then let them whisper. Empires rot faster in silence. Alex watched the exchange quietly, feeling the familiar tug of guilt and pride. He'd never wanted to be a symbol. But looking at her, radiant, fierce, utterly unafraid, he knew he couldn't walk away. Later that night, he found her on the balcony, Trouble curled against her arm. They'll never approve, he said. They don't have to, she replied. History will. History's a terrible judge. Then we'll rewrite it. Chapter 20. The Cat Who Crowned a King. The coronation was supposed to be a formality, renewal of her vows to the throne. Instead, it became the moment the galaxy stopped pretending she wasn't rewriting its laws. As she knelt before the high altar, Trouble leapt from her shoulder and landed on the crown. The hall gasped. Virolith froze. Then, with infinite calm, she stood, crown and cat both perched atop her head, and declared, Let all beings under the stars remember, to rule is to protect the small. Applause thundered. Alex, standing among the courtiers, could only laugh. Afterward, she found him in the garden again. The night smelled of ozone and roses. Are you proud of yourself? She teased. Of me? You're the one who let a cat officiate your coronation. She insisted. He chuckled. She's got good instincts. So do I, Virolith said softly. And mine tell me that Terran engineers make excellent consorts. He blinked. You mean? Yes, she said, stepping closer. The Empire will adapt. It always does. Trouble twined around their feet, purring like destiny. And somewhere far beyond the spire, the stars kept their rhythm, bearing witness to the strangest truth in the galaxy. A human showed an alien princess a cat, and the universe learned to purr. Chapter 21. The Library of Softness. Empires remember wars in granite and victories in gold, but Virolith chose something else. Months after her coronation, she commissioned the construction of a new hall beneath the spire, a library without locks, open to every citizen. It was vast and circular, its walls lined with glass tablets that shimmered with recorded memory. But what made it remarkable was what lay at its center. An enormous cushion shaped like a sleeping planet, where a very real cat ruled unchallenged. Trouble slept through most of the dedication ceremony. The crowd did not mind. This is the Library of Softness, Virolith announced to the gathered nobles, workers, and off-world visitors. A place to learn the difficult art of gentleness. Alex stood beside her, dressed in a newly designed engineer's uniform of state, which was really just his old jumpsuit with nicer pockets. When she gestured for him to speak, he hesitated. Look, he said, I don't know much about philosophy, but where I'm from we've got a saying, a quiet room and a warm heart can fix almost anything. The crowd laughed softly, but the words stuck. Afterward, as the visitors dispersed, Virolith turned to him. You have an inconvenient gift for reducing the profound to simplicity. It's just the accent, he said, makes everything sound more reasonable. Trouble opened one eye, yawned, and placed a paw over her face, as if she'd heard it all before. Chapter 22. When stars nap, peace is never perfect. It flickers like a candle that needs tending. There were still rebellions in the corners of the empire, still greed, still ignorance. But they burned out faster now, smothered by laughter and trust instead of gunfire. Virolith traveled more than any ruler before her, sometimes with diplomats, sometimes with engineers, always with Alex and the cat. On the mining moon of Rathar, she crouched in the dust to let children pet Trouble's tail. On the water world of Kess, she shared a bowl of soup with fishermen who'd never spoken to royalty before. On the Terran embassy ship Endeavor, she stood before a crowd of humans and said, "Your planet gave me a creature that taught me peace. I offer you the same lesson in return." Alex watched her with quiet pride. The universe had finally caught up with her heart. At night, in whatever corner of the galaxy they slept, Trouble always found the warmest spot between them and claimed it. "Someday," Virolith murmured once, eyes half closed, "the stars will tire of watching us." "Then they'll learn to nap," Alex said. Chapter 23. Trouble's Legacy. Years passed, but Trouble did not seem to age. She grew rounder, slower, wiser, but her rule remained absolute. When she finally went still one dawn, curled on the cushion in the Library of Softness, the entire empire went silent. Bells tolled on every world. The transmission of her heartbeat, recorded by the palace monitors, was replayed across systems. Virolith stood before the crowd and said, "Our goddess has not left us. She simply naps in a larger sunbeam." The empire declared a day of quiet. No engines roared, no ships launched. For 24 hours, the galaxy listened to its own hum, the same hum a cat once made in a princess's arms. Alex buried Trouble in the palace garden, under the lilac tree where they'd first realized affection could change history. He built a small plaque himself. She came. She purred. She conquered. When he showed it to Virolith, she laughed through tears. "You should have been a poet." "I was," he said. "You just made me honest." Chapter 24. Continue. The years were kind to them. They ruled not with decrees, but with curiosity, with the same reckless compassion that had once nearly gotten them both killed. Their empire became less of a machine and more of a living thing, messy, kind, self-correcting. One evening, when the palace lights dimmed to twilight, Virolith found Alex in the garden again, tinkering with a small bronze automaton, shaped like a cat. It purred weakly when he touched it. "She'd like this," Virolith said. "She'd hate the sound," he said. "Too even. Not chaotic enough." Virolith smiled. "You still fix what is not broken. And you still forgive what doesn't need forgiving." They stood together, looking up at the sky that had once separated their worlds. "Do you regret it?" she asked quietly. "All the noise, the scandal, the danger." He shook his head. "You taught me the only thing worth teaching. When something small makes the universe better, you protect it." Virolith reached for his hand. "And when the universe forgets?" He squeezed her fingers. "Then we remind it." A soft chime sounded from the automaton, its imperfect purr looping, skipping, stubbornly alive. Virolith laughed. "She refuses to stay silent." "She never did." They stood there, hand in hand, while the sound filled the garden, warm, rhythmic, endless. History would tell it 1,000 ways. Some said the empire was saved by a cat. Others claimed it was love that changed the stars. But the truth, the quiet truth, was simpler. A human engineer showed an alien princess, a fragile, curious creature. And together, they learned how to be gentle with the universe. The last entry in the Royal Archive carried a single word, blinking softly in Terran script: "Purr."